Next up, we have another parliamentary representative, Simon Hughes MP for North Southwark and Bermondsey. He's a Liberal Democrat, and he's also Shadow Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change. Please welcome Simon Hughes.
Thank you very much for being here. It's really important we're here. And like loads of other people, I have cycled here too. So up for the cyclists. Big cheer for the cyclists. The reason we're here is because for years and years people have not understood how people have been exploiting our world. That's why we're here. We're here because in the last 2 years there's been an economic crisis and a climate crisis because people have been selfish and greedy and put the short-term interest of the few above the long-term interest of the many. That's why we're here. And we need to be absolutely clear that the link between the economic crisis and the climate crisis is fundamental. They're caused by the same attitude. They're caused by the same mindset. Take what you can now and don't worry a bugger about the people who come later. That's why we are in the mess we're in. And we're here to say enough. It's got to stop. We have a world where in every single country, every year, the rich and the poor have a gap which widens between them. Every single country. And the countries of the world have a world in which the rich countries get richer, whereas the relatively poor countries are relatively poor every year. And we're here because what we're talking about, of course it matters in this country, but it matters far more in places like Bangladesh, where there are millions of people who, unless there is a change of the way we run our world, will have no country where they can live at home. Last year 20 million people in the world had to move because of climate disaster, a drought, hurricanes, storms. They became refugees, 20 million people last year. And the way the world's going on, there will be more and more and more people who are driven out of their homes. There will be more conflicts because people will be fighting over the land where you can grow, because there will be lots of desert where you can't grow. So this is not about a protest for the rich West. This is about trying at last to be in solidarity with people in the world who have for too long been on the receiving end whilst we have plundered what we can take. I'll give you one example. I met the other day the Native American Indians from Canada, whose lands are being used to extract tar sands, oil, from the ground in Canada. They're meant to be in charge of their land, but the dirtiest process on earth is happening literally on their doorsteps. And it's happening because companies from around the world believe that's the best way to take fuel for us to use. I met the other day the people from the coast of Dorset. I see people are here from Cornwall, who look out over the sea to see boats, tankers full of oil, which is waiting offshore until the price goes up before they unload so that people in this country can have oil to heat their homes. We live in a world where people are exploiting each other. And we're here to say this is enough. And we have to start now in the way you and I can do that. Next year we have elections in this country. You have to choose who you vote for, but you must please vote for people who believe that we have to change the way we do our lives, starting at home, then with your local council, then with this Parliament of this country, then with the European Union, and then with the UN. And I'll just give you a list of 5 things that we ought to do which will change the way we do our life. In this country, I've produced figures which will be public this weekend, which show the number of flights which are taken within Britain by ministers and civil servants on their business when they could go by train. It's no good politicians preaching to other people to live green lives when they don't live green lives themselves. It's just not acceptable. Last winter, nearly 40,000 people died of hypothermia in this country, above the average figure for the year. The highest figure for 10 years. Why? Because in spite of the fact that we've been hearing about it for years, only 1 in 100 homes in this country are warm homes, are properly insulated. We need a national programme which would make every home a warm home, so we don't have tens of thousands of old people dying in the winter, so that poor people have fuel bills they can afford, not fuel bills they can't afford, and so the energy companies don't exploit people by charging them over the odds. We've got to have a different way of doing it. It could be done in 10 years. If government takes the lead and councils deliver, we could have a Britain where 27% of the emissions, which are the emissions that come from our homes, don't come from our homes. Please go home and challenge people at home to do that. We could have a European supergrid which collects the energy, including renewable energy, all over Europe. But above all, we could have a United Nations deal. We could have a United Nations deal, which means that rich countries like America and us, which were the cause of the Industrial Revolution and the biggest emissions, contribute to the funds needed so that other countries can adapt and mitigate what's happening to them. We have to be generous in a time of global adversity. And if ever there's an issue, which is to make sure not just that we change our world, but that we save our world, this is the issue. And let nobody, next year or any year, forget it, my friends. Make this the issue which is at the front of your politics, and make this the issue which is at the front of British politics. We're here together, stand together. If we don't do it over the next 5 years, it may be too late to save the planet that we call our home. Thank you very much. Go well and campaign as strongly as you can.